So let me share you that screen what he was saying, what he said exactly. I saved that page. This is his statement. CBI should be given statutory status similar to Comptroller and Auditor General of India. He said the CBI has failed to meet the standards of judicial scrutiny in high profile and politically sensitive cases. And the executive control makes it susceptible to be used as a political instrument. So this is what, let's say, he is trying to say. Then there is another statement, let's say, that another thing I would like to share. It is by Madras High Court. So you see this one, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. You see this one, it is Madras High Court remark. Very sadly, the CBI is dragging its feet. Whenever there is a demand for inquiry, on the ground that resources and manpower available with it are restricted and therefore it cannot conduct investigations. This is the usual stereotypical defense of the CBI before courts. Ye courts, CBI often says, this is Madras court they have told, same thing in Vyapam case, they have told to Supreme Court, they have limited manpower and resources. So, although high courts are in Supreme Court, let's say they are extreme, or CBI is good, resourceful. So you can see, imagine that. The CBI related institution has excused before the courts that it has limited resources and manpower. Its manpower has also not increased. This is how last 20 years we told that it had 5,000 workforce, and 5,000 its workforce has increased to 7,000. So only 2,000, let's say, increase in workforce in, let's say, from 2000 around to 2020. Means 20 years में only 2,000, let's say, manpower has been increased. But number of cases, if you say कि how number of cases increased, it will be huge.
is there any exam for recruitment to CBI, specific examination?
Yes, that is SSC examination or separate CBI examination for sub-inspector and sub-inspector level in recruitment.
So it is for Group B, Group C as well, both the
Yes, yes.
groups. And the officers which head will always be on deputation.
Yes, other officers are always on deputation. There was a time when Vineet Narayan judgment was given, so there was direct, let's say, recruitment at senior level also. But that was done for only 4-5 years. Then the practice was stopped. So basically there is ad hocism. You will study in your internal security GS paper. There is ad hocism in appointment of personnel to several investigating agencies at union level, right? Including NIA, CBI, Enforcement Directorate. They don't have their own personnel. Rather, they depend on the personnel coming on deputation, right? NSG has a very good record of deputation coming from military, and that model is told that this model should be also followed in case of other such investigating agencies at union level where you have the deputation. Although NSG is not for investigation, but NSG derives its personnel from military and paramilitary. So it has a very streamlined system of this called impanelment system, and they don't have to go back. But यहाँ पे क्या है कि there is impanelment system, then you have to go back to your parent cadre. It can be, let's say that you work for a few years and then you are shifted. Like say even if you see Samir Wankhede case, he was narcotics bureau heading, now he has been called to Delhi. हेडक्वार्टर में बुलाया गया है. Right. So staffing is still a concern if you take overall macro level. If you take, so staffing is also still a concern, and it is not still settled. It is not still settled the staffing pattern of different institutions, including CBI. Right.
So the names of people who will be sent for deputation is sent by the states?
Yes, they are sent by the states.
It is on their own willingness.
Not willingness, it is a system that has come. Basically, let's say that कि हर स्टेट का एक कोटा होता है. So in under that quota मान लो कि इस स्टेट का 50 है, तो एटलीस्ट कुछ तो फिल अप करेगा ना, 10 भी तो करेगा ना कम से कम. मतलब एक सिस्टम that a system has evolved. So when a system has evolved, let's say state has 50, let's say quota for IPS officer from that state going on deputation to center. अब जो बहुत सारे IPS officers they themselves apply to state government. They are themselves willing to serve. Means different people have different interest. So when different people have different interest, they want to serve. So when they want to serve, so they apply at state. And since center has, this is how the rules you have, cadre rules at sectors. So that is how, let's say that they will seek the proposal, they will apply, and since they apply, they seek the proposal. That is how they are appointed. But suppose that the person belong to the state has applied, that time there was no any issue. Now the person is heading any investigation under CBI, and that case is related to the state government. Right. तो फिर क्या करेगा?
तो वापस नहीं जाएगा.
Right. So that is how, let's say, internal maneuvering, lots of scopes are given for all these things. This is how tenure should be fixed, and this has remained a culture, so further it has. Anyhow, let's come to our point. If you open book to improve institutions, so there are so many things to read. Better close the book. Do not. Do not think, right? Once you qualify, right? Don't think on that. This is what I will say, right? Otherwise, you see, so many things are to be done, and how to avoid yourself, close the book. That's all. जैसे चल रहा है चलने दो.
Sir, when you say that criminal justice reform should be there, so you are talking about CRPC reform.
Yes, yes. Because in that you don't have accountability system. It's mess. We'll teach you when we'll take law and order topic. Anyhow, so there the question comes that should it be made like CAG? Since CAG yet we have not taught, so a bit of that I will tell you that what CAG is.
Sir, CAG is a constitutional body, right?
Yes.
In that article, it should be made like statutory.
देखो इतना लिटरल सेंस में नहीं लिया जाता है, वो उनका मतलब यही है कि कैग लाइक बनाना है, राइट. बेसिकली कैग को पावर जो मिलता है वो कैग ड्यूटीज पावर कंडीशन ऑफ सर्विसेज एक्ट 1971 इज द सोर्स ऑफ पावर फॉर कैग. तो ही मीन्स दैट कि नॉट टू क्रिएट ए कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बॉडी लाइक दैट, ही मीन्स दैट कि यू मेक ए सेपरेट लॉ फॉर CBI and you give independence like CAG, which can be done without creating a constitutional body. He does not mean that कि CBI should be created, made as a constitutional body. ये सब let's say implicit inferences है. So it is in that. So what you should know that it is already you know Lakshmikant Article 148 talks about CAG. So it is means it has security of tenure, this long term tenure. Six years. Finance independence. तो इनके पास ही खुद का बहुत पैसा है. So, although CBI के पास भी पैसा है, but that's different thing. So these are some, let's say, features like this. Removal is by parliament. Removal by parliament. Then नो, एक्स फैक्टर नहीं है, एक्स फैक्टर का अलग मीनिंग भी होता है, isn't it? So X factor, it lacks all. So try to understand that कि CAG, if you take CAG, so CAG is independent to conduct audit, but its recommendations are not binding. So independence to conduct an audit, not to punish. Lacks independence. So, lack independence, but punish. So we cannot depict, this is how you have to see the things case by case. So CAG does not have power to arrest, right? And it has been given independence. You can say the one of the most independent institutions in the country, or most independent also you can say that. But at the same time, let's say it is also, its accountability mechanism is also that Parliament can remove, so it is accountable to Parliament. It has not been, there is no that kind of mechanism, although it is also, it has to be accountable to its own professional standards. It is also accountable to its own professional standards because institutions set their own professional standards. Like the way you set your professional standards to yourself, you set your benchmark in your life. Let's say this should be the benchmark. So similarly, let's say that they have also their institutional benchmark. Anyhow, so the question is that it lacks independence, but it has power to punish, and it has independence, but it has no power to punish. So Ranjan Gogoi idea was not appropriate because it lacks understanding. Matlab, he may have not exactly connoted that it should be made like CAG. His idea of making like CAG is to give independence to CBI, because the politically, those cases where they are politically colored, yes, CBI has lacked that kind of, let's say that, professionalism. And if you find the cases related, so they have not, let's say that they have remained inconclusive. One is called Bofors scam. This another is called Hawala scam. This, then you know that how long it has taken in case of fodder scam. Then if you take, let's say, the recent cases, if you find the recent cases related to Arushi murder case, that is how Talwar case we say, 2G scam you can say, 2G scam. So there have been recent times cases collapsing in the court, and closure reports are filed. Similarly, it is investigating Vyapam scam case, etc. So records, if you see the high profile cases, so that is how it is criticized. And the recent time, basically 2 years back, there was debate that how the important cases and important cases, in those important cases CBI is collapsing, means it is not able to bring evidence. One example was 2G scam, in which the court very harshly indicted CBI. मतलब courts went and saying कि you lack professionalism, you जानते ही नहीं हो तुम्हें investigation कैसे करना है, you behave as if you do not know how to investigate, and deliberately you are not gathering evidence. That is the, let's say, exact quotation of all. There are so many quotations to say, but difficult. So now the question is that no, we don't need to make it like CAG, because the role of CAG is different. It is audit, and then audit is subject to, let's say, this audit report is subject to democratic control. We have a system of control. So exactly same we cannot give like the way CAG is given. Rather we can bring, let's say that CBI can be made independent, at the same time there can be system of control so that it is accountable. Yes, one cannot say that CBI should not be independent, or one cannot say it lacks independence, means it does not lack independence. It lacks independence, jug zahir hai, let's say, means people know it, it lacks independence. Right. This, but when you give independence, you have to bring accountability also. Otherwise, if you give independence, then you know what we need to do. Right. If you give independence, you know what it will do. It has suo motu power also. Right. This, so that's why independence and accountability, but not necessarily like CAG. Because it has also been interpreted CAG is a constitutional body, we cannot make CBI a constitutional body. And there is a process in audit, because audit is different thing, investigation is different thing. Investigation is an investigation prosecutions, they are related to arrest of the person. And arrest results into, you know that it sends a shockwave also. Right. In society, basically you should know that when CBI raided ICI head and Arun Jaitley was in US taking health treatment, and CBI carried out raid at ICI bank head, so there let's say जैसे नहीं होता है कि वो कोई हेल्थ मतलब कि हॉस्पिटल में है, उसको कोई न्यूज मिलता है तो वो आता है बाहर, तो जेटली जी ने ऐसे ही कुछ व्यवहार किया. So he told from US, if CBI should avoid over-activism. He sharply criticized CBI, let's say that, from US, that and he told that when CBI carries out raid, so it sends message to business fraternity and it has lots of its ramification and repercussions. So both we have to see, because its nature is different, the nature of CAG is different. Hence, ex-CBI directors and other people have given suggestion that CBI should follow FBI pattern rather than CAG pattern. Right. This. So let's summarize it. Yes.
So one question. So, does CBI come into conflict with Enforcement Directorate when it comes to financial matters, or with NIA when it comes to terrorism matters?
There are differences, overlappings, but those conflicts are not very serious that it should be debated.
Okay.
There are certain let's say overlappings in their relationship, but then they have not become to an extent that the way we talk in case of CAG and we talk in case of Lokpal, CVC and CBI, so then it can become a matter of that level of talk that CBI and Enforcement Directorate jurisdiction should be clearly defined. It does not. Yes, it is said the way there is a grey area for CBI, similarly there is a grey area for Enforcement Directorate. This you should know, and that should be clearly defined. So the day you will have a separate statute for CBI and Enforcement Directorate, the further there will be segregation of their powers. This, and similarly between CBI and NIA, so the NIA has been given jurisdiction related to terrorism, so then CBI, that means there is a demarcation of line. So far we do not have any such serious conflict, the way conflict happens between let's say Competition Commission of India and TRI on related to Geo, or let's say that insurance means IRDA and SEBI. So some conflicts become so explicit that it becomes a matter of debate. But there are some differences that they continuously happen, but they are able to manage it. So they are very marginal level, not that big level. Right. So let's write on that, and therefore even if CAG enjoys independence, and it is considered as It is considered as one of the most important accountability institutions which has built a good stature of its professional standards and largely remains apolitical and acontroversial. But on the other hand, for CBI, the same cannot be said. For CBI, the same cannot be said. Although it does have its own professional standards. It does have its own professional standards that even 65% conviction rate cannot be considered bad. However, it is true that in high profile cases where politics is involved, it does have lack of independence. And it fails to behave professionally. The two recent cases are 2G scam and Rafael deal. Hence, there is no doubt about its lack of independence, which should be improved. But not like CAG. Because the role of CAG is audit and its nature of role is different from that of role of CBI. That even if CBI lacks independence, if it is agreed, still it has powers to arrest, prosecute, raid, means carry out raid, etc. And if it is given independence like CAG, then it can become threat without accountability. It has coercive powers. But CAG does not have coercive powers. And therefore, there are recommendations and views that CBI should be made independent institution, but not on the pattern of CAG, but on the pattern of FBI. So that there is also accountability mechanism. In fact, there is overwhelming view that there should be a separate act. There should be a separate act for CBI which should clearly define its power functions, independence, and accountability. In case of FBI in US, there are multiple control systems. To ensure its independence and accountability. Like FBI head appointment is approved by Senate. Then FBI head has almost a long tenure, 10 years. Then for surveillance, it has to get permission from Attorney General. Right. Then Director of National Intelligence. So permission is needed for intelligence related process, terrorism related intelligence. And then there is Inspector General appointed by President. A President appointed to ensure transparency. So, the role of Inspector General is transparency to deal against any abuse of power. So, this is called, let's say, system. That there is a system. Basically, UK and US we believe in long tenure, not in short term. हमारे यहाँ तो 2 साल पे भी एग्रीमेंट नहीं है. But UK and US they have their CAG, they will appoint for 10 years. Cabinet Secretary they will appoint for 10 years. So then they appoint, let's say, meritorious person, unless the person becomes, let's say, his tenure may end, because if the person is not acting in accountable manner, so it will end. The first that the Senate, you have to approve, all higher appointments are approved by Senate. Now, so that is itself a check. It brings transparency, accountability, competent person will be appointed. Attorney General surveillance, this in their country surveillance cannot be conducted without a system is there, including judges, they give permission. So Attorney General will give for, let's say, permission. Director General National Intelligence, so this is how process, terrorism related intelligence, there is a control. And Inspector General for it, to ensure that the FBI is functioning in a transparent manner. Right. We will not say again, it's not like it's absolutely, let's say that good institution. Yes, but there are checks and balances, and that checks and balances are appointed, let's say, by Senate also, means legislature is also there, executive is also there. This. So when the legislature plays also role, executive also plays role, it is not all executive. This, and that should be, let's say, also suggested that we should also follow. We have executive control, let's say, if you see, we told about CBI. So we told that CBI is controlled by, so we have Ministry of Personnel, means Department of Personnel, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Law and Justice, this, then Ministry of Home Affairs, then PMO. So you have executive, political executive exercising control, rather than, let's say, that ki administrative bodies, right? And this still there is lack of accountability mechanism. So simply we can learn from that. We do not want that ki Senate. Since we do not have this practice, so since this kind of practice we do not have, so we can introduce a separate CBI Act which can define its jurisdiction function, in which you can have selection committee. Selection committee which will have also leader of opposition. This. Then clear jurisdiction. Security of tenure. Accountability mechanism. Plus we need to have parliamentary standing committee, a dedicated parliamentary standing committee for investigating agencies. All those investigating agencies, we should have a committee dedicated. The way we have said for regulators, so for regulators, there should be a committee. For public-private partnership, there should be standing committee. Similarly, for investigating agencies, there should be a parliamentary committee that will exercise. That way we can have that kind of role, means democratic control.
So we already have a selection committee, isn't it?
Yes, there is selection committee, Chief Justice of India, Prime Minister and leader of opposition.
So what is the difference between this act and the existing act from which the CBI derives power?
Yes, the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act was enacted after World War II to deal against some of the corruption related matters during the, let's say that time, war time, basically. And it was not exactly designed to deal against corruption taking place in a democratic country, because it was designed in 1946. So the law has also legal loopholes, flaws, right? Because of that, in terms of it does not define, because in executive resolution it has been created, so it does not define its power clearly, power, jurisdiction, relation with other institutions, its responsibility. So all these things are not clearly stated. And 3 high courts have questioned its creation itself. They have declared unconstitutional. They say that the creation of CBI is arbitrary. तो एक अगर हाई कोर्ट करता है तो समझ में आता है, दूसरा हाई कोर्ट करता है तो समझ में आता है, राइट. लास्ट टाइम इट वाज तमिलनाडु हाई कोर्ट, तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने स्टे लगा दिया. सारे हाई कोर्ट्स दे हैव द स्टे. But that's not the point. The point is that Delhi Special Police Establishment Act was not enacted for the purpose we are using now. Right. The nature of corruption has changed. The nature of crime has changed. Right. And let's say that federal relations have changed. So accordingly, you have to set up an institution. Why not? It should be why CVC has been made a statutory body, but CBI has not been made because Supreme Court has not told. Don't you think that where you have power, scope of misuse of power, there you have executive bodies, and where you have less scope for misuse of power, we have constitutional and statutory bodies. That is an imbalance arrangement, right? And that's why it is a high time, means ki almost there is a consensus, any let's say that nobody will say there should not be a separate law. Most of, let's say overwhelmingly, there is a support that yes, we should have a separate law. Even government has also expressed anonymously, means people in government have expressed anonymously yes, we should have a separate act, right? But then it has not been created. So exactly that we cannot adopt, but yes, we can bring certain accountability mechanisms so that it can focus. At the same time, you can, let's say it's finance also, you can talk finances, its resources, its personnel. The personnel related also things can be specified, so that internal transfer and management, those things are also made, means less political, right? And that is how you should write on that.
Sir?
Yes.
So as far as finance is concerned, it is given by center at its own will, or like is there some parameter?
Right. देखो उसका कोई पैरामीटर नहीं है, क्योंकि it is given by center. It is rather that you set certain standards and legacy that you set. जैसे इलेक्शन कमीशन है, तो इलेक्शन कमीशन को अगर पैसा नहीं दोगे, फंड नहीं दोगे, तो वो चला जाएगा कोर्ट, राइट? तो वो कोर्ट में चले जाते हैं. अब कोर्ट में चूंकि it is mentioned in the article, let's say 324 and other article, that the power of superintendence and conduct of free and fair election. So they have gone to court and they have requested to the court that you issue directive to the center that you should give it an adequate manpower and funds. So वीवीपैट के लिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला कि आप इलेक्शन कमीशन को इतने 1000 करोड़ दो पैसा. Election Commission told that it does not have fund to carry out VVPAT based election in 2019. The Supreme Court directed this much fund should be given. I do not exactly remember, but it can be 600 crore, 600 crore, whatever, let's say. Certain 100,000 crore they recommended to the center gave it. तब पैसा आ गया. सो कोर्ट्स ने बोला है फास्ट ट्रैक के लिए भी कि ये पैसा है, इतना पैसा इन्वेस्ट करो. तो बेसिकली लेट्स से दैट कि द विल शुड कम ऑन योर साइड ना. व्हाई यू आर लेटिंग द कोर्ट टू टेल यू दैट कि यू गिव दिस मच फंड फॉर द फास्ट ट्रैक कोर्ट, राइट? सो CAG let's say that कि finances, how you come to know that कि finance is a condition? So you have charged Consolidated Fund of India. Now ideally let's say that कि finance means there should be rational analysis of budgeting. When budget estimates, CBI sends its budget estimates and then it may send its estimates that suppose it needs, let's say that X crore. So when it needs X crore, it is sent to the Ministry of Finance, not directly by it, but it will send through DOPT. So when it is sending through that Ministry of Finance, so certainly the way Ministry of Finance has scrutiny of budget of others, similarly they should sanction the budget that they demand if it is rational. And it has been left to them. Same thing happened to regulatory bodies, same thing happened to any institution. Finance is a condition, so you should set some standards. Let's say that you can have financial independent financial mechanisms should be set. So there should be independent review. आप peer review करवा लो ना उसके finance का. You can have a third party review. Does it need that kind of fund? There are so many mechanisms, let's say, so it should not be politically motivated. So you need to ensure, guarantee that yes, funds should be given, how much funds should be given, it's personal plan. Remember legislative impact assessment that we were saying. तो ये सारा वहाँ पे impact, these things happen there. So you can fix with number of cases. Budget can be fixed with number of cases. Increase in number of cases, तो ये तो थोड़े बढ़ा रहे हैं इस number of case को. आपको कुछ ना कुछ पैरामीटर तो होना चाहिए. If you have number of cases, if suppose you fix one case बढ़ेगा तो कितना budget add होगा, right? So if in let's say 1 year you have 10% increment in number of cases, the budget should also increase by 10%. Right? That is how we have. Then personnel should also increase by that. This is called certain objective standards. So there are already standards, you have to fix it, identify it, fix it. And then budget will not be politically motivated. Rather it will be that the number of cases are increasing. It is very obvious that its budget should improve, its personnel should increase, its technological support should change. अब उसके लिए कोई कमिटी की जरूरत नहीं है, राइट? हमारा सोसाइटी में क्या है? कमिटी विल बी सेट अप. Right. So this is what we can say, that there can be standards. That is how you should write, and we'll conclude it simple by this. So let's write on that.
Sir, is there any internal setup where CBI officials could say on this to the government?
Yes, they have their mechanism. They do say it. Right. Don't think that there are no people who cannot speak their mind.
Yes, sir. They are also thinking beings, na, human.
Yes, so they do.
They are not robots.
That's why we are saying that they do convey to the government, right? And they do convey many times harshly, right? This. So it's not that CBI is a bogus institution or this and that. Don't think in that way. They have still good record of 65% of conviction. So we should not make our answer orientation negative. Rather, we should talk the problems. But yes, its institutional standard should also be recognized. It does have its standard. The problem is that when it faces the high-profile political cases, so there it becomes defamed, and when it becomes defamed, so like President's rule, only 30 times President's rule misused, but misuse has been done in such a manner that use has lost its use. The use has no its relevance. This, because our mind get overwhelmed by misuse. So same thing happens with this. Anyhow, let's try that. Since it is an apex investigating institution, since it is an apex investigating institution, and there is unprecedented rise in both number of crimes and complexity of crimes, which do not have only serious repercussions, which do not have only serious repercussions on justice delivery and accountability of administration, on delivery of justice and accountability of administration, but also in globalized environment, serious repercussion on economy, especially in terms of ease of doing business, that is not having an autonomous, independent, professional and accountable investigating agency is lost to government objectives related to growth, development and good governance. Means it is destructive for a state. And that's why it is high time that CBI is reformed. And its professional standards and accountability mechanisms are set for speed and efficiency. So that is what we can tell. Nowadays I try to link with government itself. You should know that कि कई बार आपको पता नहीं है, आपको लगता है कि हमसे अगर ये इंडिपेंडेंट नहीं है, मिसयूज कर रहे हैं तो हमें फ़ायदा हो रहा है, बट आपको वो फ़ायदा नहीं हो रहा है, राइट? वो आपको लॉस हो रहा है। उससे लॉस ये हो रहा है कि आज के डेट में अगर कोई भी नेचर ऑफ क्राइम हैज़ इंक्रीज्ड, number of crimes, so there is increase, complexity of crime increase. You suppose we want competitive economy, कैसे होगा competitive economy? How you want? You want is growth and development. आपने 10% GDP growth सेटअप किया है, होगा कैसे? जस्टिस की बात छोड़ दो, अकाउंटेबिलिटी की बात छोड़ दो, इकोनॉमी की ही बात कर लो. So unless you create a fair environment, let's say कि any scam happen, किसी corporate sector ने nexus है, corruption है, आप क्या करोगे उसका? If you don't set a fair environment, so then it is affected, let's say, and cases cannot run for years. Cases cannot run for years. So it results into loss. Let's say other society scam, तो वो real estate से भी related है, किसी ने invest किया होगा उससे भी related है. So you have to see that कि the crimes and containment of crime is also linked to economy. So these things should be understood by the government, right? Speed and efficiency and all these things, and that is how you should talk about this. Anyhow, then there is a small issue going on, which is ongoing issue. Supreme Court will further, basically related to Enforcement Directorate and CBI. The government want that their tenure, it wants to keep it flexible from 2 to 5 years. Means it does not want to fix. So 2 years was fixed by Vinit Narayan case. So Supreme Court fixed tenure 2 years. Now government has introduced an ordinance, and by that ordinance, let's say that ordinance, or they have introduced a rule, I am not very sure about this, but they have introduced something like ordinance or rule, or by that they want to extend the tenure to 2 and 5 years. Right. So there is a technicality, a legal technicality is that since it was a judgment by the court, and then government is going to extend the tenure, so first ideally it is considered that the government should have first applied for review by the court. It should have applied to means appeal to the Supreme Court that you review and whether, let's say, that the term can be extended from 2 years to 5 years. So it is being considered that the government is, by, let's say, such kind of ordinance rules, trying to disrespect judiciary, means it is trying to undermine judicial authority. That has given, means it has given rise. Second thing is that call that on the one hand government is, let's say, that information commissions, it has reduced its tenure to 3 years. There it has given a logic, different logic, why it is reducing. Now here it is trying to increase 2 to 5 years. Now it is giving a different logic. So it shows inconsistency. It shows inconsistency. At one place you are trying to reduce the tenure. They had 5 years, so why to reduce? But here, let's say, they have 2 years. We are increasing 5 years, but you are not fixing 5 years. Government can extend the tenure after 2 years. It can further extend up to 5 years. It is mentioning up to 5 years. So when up to 5 year type of language is used, then it gives scope for misuse. It is being said that you simply, it can be fixed. There should be a fixed tenure, not flexible tenure, because flexible tenure gives scope for misuse. And hence it has once again given rise to this kind of debate. The debate is, that institutions, let's say, tenure and institutions, which you have in GS paper also, appointment related topic, already once or twice they have asked questions related to that. Since in public administration there is no one topic where it can be taught, but you should know that different institutions related, if you take constitutional bodies, so for them there is a debate that they should have selection committee, because they do not have selection committee, as it was not mentioned in the constitution. So they should have selection committee so that to bring transparency. As far as statutory bodies are concerned, so whatever the statutory bodies that we have, be it related to NHRC, like information commissions, and this, let's say, CVC, others. So where, let's say, that tenure is not fixed, a tenure, so this has started gathering like their tenure should be reduced. Like say, I guess NHRC tenure also they have reduced. So in case of this NHRC, let's say, so when you go for reducing tenure, Information Commission also tenure is reduced, but here it is being increased. So institutions still have problems related to their tenure. Then let's say that the security of tenure, independence, finance, the financial aspect and their independence. Right. And in some cases we have selection committee, and in some cases we do not have selection committee. Like NHRC we have selection committee, but National Commission for Women we don't have selection committee. It is also a statutory body. It is another gender discrimination. So if you read National Commission for Women. Below standard institution. Hence, what we want that there should be uniformity. We should have uniform pattern. Uniform, let's say that all across institutions we should have tenure. Let's, if you want to make 3 years tenure, make all statutory body tenures 3 years. There is no problem. 3 years, so 3 years for all. It becomes uniform. You cannot pick and choose 3 years for this and 5 years for this. Right. Plus, then selection committee. There should be selection committee also. Financial aspect. So make certain independent financial arrangement, and let's have one institution, any defined institution or a body related to appointment that can have common selection committee. We also suggest for a common selection committee for all. Right. Why, let's say, government should waste so much time in appointing such persons when government will govern? Don't you think that there should be independent selection committee, and that independent selection committee, let's say that you make it in cabinet secretariat, you can make in cabinet secretariat an independent selection committee. That selection committee will bring out the names of the people, scrutinize the names of those persons, and then it will recommend to the selection committee of appointment. As of now, you have a selection committee. Let's say that NHRC has a selection committee. But which institution provides secretarial assistance? Which institution provides secretarial assistance? It is not clear. Right. So, since you have so many selection committees, so why we cannot make in cabinet secretariat? Let's say you have appointment committee of cabinet. The appointment committee of cabinet and cabinet secretariat is giving this. But then appointment committee of cabinet, when you have, so it is appointing authority. But then there is it is not appointing authority in every case. You have selection committee. In case of NHRC, selection committee will recommend to president. So does it mean that this selection committee is assisted by appointment committee of cabinet? But no, it is a cabinet committee. It is not a cabinet committee. So appointment committee of cabinet comes into picture only when the government appoints. But when president is appointing, so then it is the recommendation by the government. So we can institutionalize it. Let's institutionalize it so that there is a proper scrutiny of the members that you are going to appoint. And then let's say selection committee, a common selection committee can be there. Leader of opposition, prime minister, speaker, vice president, chief justice of India. That's all. Why to have in one home minister and another, let's say that ki तो प्रीलिम्स में भी प्रिपरेशन में भी परेशानी होता है. NHRC के सिलेक्शन कमेटी का कंपोजिशन ही अलग है. एक बार आया है प्रीलिम्स में, you know that it was asked once in prelims, right? And CBI का composition selection commission का अलग है. It shows ad hocism, not standardized practice. Right. We should be clear about the tenure given to the institution, one selection committee, appointment mechanism, so that we do not start playing football like children when position becomes vacant. Right. There is a system which is working for appointment. This. And that is how you should write when you have to deal such kind of things related to which is ongoing issue. ED and CBI, it is sub judice, it is ongoing, it will go on. So you read it. So we finish here related to CBI and formal institutional mechanisms.